Hi, everyone. The title of our session today is How to Get Control of Your Life Back. And I think I would love to, in the very beginning, sort of call the elephant in the room out. Have I figured that out myself? I think maybe yes, but we all are struggling with it. But the one thing that my message today for you would be to really know that in order to really get control of your own life is to stop thinking about your own life. And instead, think that you're here to serve others. And once you do that, you've really solved a big question for yourself. It's like, why am I here? You're here to actually serve the universe. And once you do that, the question has been answered. It's no longer about you. It's actually about everybody else, right? And I know it's hard for us to sort of get that sometimes. So as we talk through this today, we are going to look at three main steps, as you can see in the handout that I passed out. And if you're watching online, there will be a link for that handout right below that video. But the very first thing that we want to take a look at is understanding that if you just look at the US alone, more than $80 billion are spent every year to help people figure out how can they become better at what they do. And a whole lot more billions are spent to help people figure out how can they have a better life. And I struggled with this myself professionally because I have spent so many years, almost 15 plus years, trying to figure out how can you help people become better people at work, right? And then every time I go to do that job, I'm thinking, I better figure out how to do things better myself at work. And not only that, better yet, at home, right? As a person, as a human being. And I have discovered three main steps that will really help us do that. The very first thing that we have to do is the very first step in that worksheet is really unpacking what our default setting is. The hidden glasses that we're wearing and we don't know that we are wearing. And just to give you a sense of what that means, take a minute to answer one of the questions that are in that very first section in the handout. What do you do, for example, the very first one is, if somebody criticizes you, what is your most typical reaction when that happens? If somebody at work upsets you, what do you typically do? Do you shut up and not say anything, or do you blast out, or what is sort of the passive-aggressive behavior that might show up sometimes? And if somebody criticizes you at home, what do you typically do? I actually have a personal story. A relative of mine would go upstairs to his room, close the door, and pretty much give everybody silent treatment for quite a long time. And similar stuff happens in the workplace. So what we're really talking about today is sort of a 360 view of how do we act in our lives. And a lot of what we do is unspoken. A lot of the time, when you get in that behavior, you're basically expecting everybody to follow the script. I'm gonna go to my room, I'm gonna shut the door, nobody's gonna come talk to me, and when they cook the food, I will just stroll downstairs, grab my meal, then go back to my room, talking to nobody. But that doesn't really solve any problems, right? It doesn't really help anybody. So as you unpack what I call the I tend to statements about yourself, there are many of them. Again, typically what do you do when you get angry? Typically what do you do when you do something really well at work? If somebody upsets you, if you have an employee that's not working out, what do you typically do? And on and on and on. Really get to come to grips with that long list, because it's a long list. And a lot of the time, you don't want to face the fact that you may actually be not serving yourself. You may not be even serving people around you. Remember, I said the solution is figuring out what is going to serve others, and that will answer the question, what is going to serve me, right? So that very step is sort of unpack what your default setting is. We all have that issue, and the more we uncover it, the more we actually can reach our own happiness. So when I took a look at corporate training, which has been, again, my own journey for a number of years, the thing that I struggled with the most was, if we're going to spend this much money, on this training, millions of dollars. Cisco Systems, Oracle Corporation, Deloitte & Touche, Charles Schwab in San Francisco. What are these people going to do on Monday? My struggle was to make sure that that default setting is going to change on Monday, right? So in order to give people a reason why to be different and act different on Monday, because if I don't get any differential, if I don't get any change in that behavior on Monday morning, I have lost all the money I spent. Everything the company has spent goes to nothing. And we are in a situation where, hey Ash, the work you did, you know what? Proved nothing, resulted in nothing, you're not doing your job, right? And again, you reflect on your own life in the same manner. So in order for us to start succeeding is to start actually changing what we do. And by changing what we do, we have to come to the next step in our handout, which is the step about really knowing how do we define ourselves. We have to have a point of view. So if I am a public speaker, what is your point of view? If I am an SEO, marketing specialist, what is my point of view? And by point of view, you're really saying, I define myself. I don't wait for my manager to tell me how good I am as a writer or how good I am as a marketing specialist. The other day, a friend of mine was telling me how she would literally sit on the couch crying because her manager told her she couldn't write well enough. And that's pretty tough. I think a lot of us have that memory of my dad said X, Y, and Z, my mom said X, Y, and Z, my boss said X, Y, and Z. And we let that stuff go through. And we let that stuff define who we are, right? And my appeal to you is completely stop that stuff from going all the way in. You have to have your own view. If you believe that you are a strong writer, then just let everybody know that I am. Maybe not for you, but I am. Because once they puncture through that confidence shield, then we've lost you as a person. You're no longer who you want to be. Because all of a sudden, it's what my boss says. It can't be that way. So I worked at Deloitte & Touche, which is a major consulting company. The biggest thing I got out of working at Deloitte & Touche, which was after a harrowing experience at Charles Schwab, was to see a whole company that every Monday morning they send 50,000 or more people out into the world to clients, right? So let's say if you work for Deloitte, maybe Monday morning you're going to go to Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is the client. And when you go, you are being told you are Ms. Ambassador or Mr. Ambassador of Deloitte & Touche. What that essentially says, that you bring a certain presence, you have a certain product, you have a certain way of doing things that when you go to Wells Fargo, that's how you're going to act. The lesson I got out of this is, for all of us, once you get up in the morning and go out, you are a company that is made of one person. And that company, that person, whether it's you're going to get out of your door, your bedroom, and talk to your family, you're opening up the door to service everybody outside. And in order to do that, you have to have your own brand. You have to have your own position on what standard are you going to have. If something is going to upset you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to blast at everybody or show them how do we learn from what happened? Because if you blast out and then tell them that failure is a big problem and dad is going to scream, or as a boss you're going to yell at your employees to tell them how shitty job they have done, you're really messing something up. You're missing an opportunity for somebody to come to you with an idea that may one day make you a lot of money. Or if it's your child, that person may one day become the next Steve Jobs, right? So we have to be very conscious of, once I step out, what kind of person, what kind of brand do I deliver, right? So you need to define, when people work with me or people interact with me, this is the following experience they're going to get. You need to sort of define what that experience is. If you're doing it like happy-go-lucky, whatever happens, happens, it can't work that way. You have to have a standard in terms of the kind of person you want to be, right? And with that standard, a lot of control comes. Because remember, the other scenario is, if I'm going to believe what you told me, I'm just going to go back to my desk and think I am so lousy coming up with PowerPoint presentations, or I cannot write, or I cannot talk. or I cannot this, or I cannot that. No, 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 no. I have to own that myself, right? I have to define how good am I, and depend on several sources of information before I give anybody control over me. And I will never do that. Never, ever do that. And by the way, when we do that, we're doing it by choice. We're doing it because we just want to blame somebody. And my request of you is define your brand, define your standard. That gives you total control. Whatever happens at work, you're not going to get upset. Because as a Deloitte & Touche consultant, I knew if something happens in that meeting, I still have to maintain my own person as a senior consultant for Deloitte & Touche and the kind of brand I represent. I could not get angry. I could not yell at my client. And by the same token, I should not be yelling at home. If I can control myself in that meeting, why not at home, right? So again, the question is you have to focus on what is going to serve what's happening right now in this meeting. I need to make sure my client can hear and understand that I'm listening to them and I can understand them really well and I know what they're looking for. And at the very end of that conversation, I should say, Mr. Client, what I hear you saying is, and I need to validate what I heard and what I understood, right? If you read the 7 Habits of the Highly Effective People, one of the habits in there is seek first to understand before being understood. So that was our second step in that process, is to really make sure that that the standard and the brand get defined and the experience that people have interacting with me, so that when Naveen leaves the room and people ask me, you know, what kind of experience did you have, then I can tell them what kind of experience they're going to get when they work with Naveen. Or if they're living in the same home, I can tell them what kind of experience it is. So you need to define what is that experience, right? Because in a lot of ways, your reputation is going to precede you to the destination you're going to. By the time you get there, especially now with social media, they are going to have a ton of information about who you are and how you do things, right? Now, let's take a look at the third step here that we are going to talk about, which is the step about how do we bring it all together. And I'm going to share with you another experience I personally had. In one moment of my life, I was the president of the ASDD chapter in San Francisco. Most of the members of that chapter are people in the training and development profession. And when I joined that chapter, my luck, it was in a very bad shape from a leadership perspective. And some of the members that within the organization, some of them are leadership coaches. And as the president of the chapter, I was lucky enough that some of the members said, hey, we see what's going on, would like to help you. What did that help? What kind of shape did it take? It essentially took some coaching from them to me, helped me put together what's called a vision for the chapter. So the third step for us, for all of us, in order to have more control over our own lives, is to, number one, make sure that you have a vision for the next 3, 5, 10 years. And what I want you to do, very much like what Martin Luther King did, he went up that hill. He saw what that future looks like. He got so excited. And he came back. And he talked to us in his I Have a Dream speech and many other speeches. And he was able to very vividly describe to us what that future looks like. I was listening to a conversation by the chief marketing officer at GE, and she was talking about how they need to make changes at GE. And she basically said, in each organization, what we want to have people from the future. And what she means by that is that we need people who have an understanding of the vision that we want to get to. And we want them to go there, get up on the hill, see everything, the colors, the sounds, and be able to come back so excited that every morning they get so excited about tomorrow, so that every morning they talk to us with that excitement in their body. They can tell us what kind of conversations they're going to hear from the customers. They can tell us what products they're going to build and how beautiful they are and how fantastic they are serving our customers, that we can then go into each organization and tell them, here's what that tomorrow looks like. So when we bring that to ourselves at a personal level, whether it's at family level or a business level, what we need to do is, again, think of what that future looks like and then come back and be able to get so excited about it. So that last step is to have excitement, to have that vision that's exciting. Think through your life, think about what you want to achieve and what you want to help others achieve. Again, kind of go back to that service orientation, that I'm here to serve. I am here to serve. And find out how exciting that would look like. What are people going to be saying? What are the things that you'll be able to see? And then come back and then capture that excitement every day in every interaction you have. So in order for us to then sort of take all that theory and put it into practice, I have 3 specific masteries that you can very simply remember, because very simple language. The 3 masteries are self-mastery, which we basically call it own it. And owning it essentially means I am responsible for my own destiny. When I get up in the morning, I am not getting up to blame anybody at all. And I actually also talk about the fact that when you think about the 100% as a number, I want you to think that number is indivisible. You can actually break it down. You cannot say, well, Jake's responsibility is about 50%, so I'm going to do my 50 and he has to do his 50. What I want you to say to yourself is that you've got that 100 yourself. It's so liberating to think that way, because then you don't have to really think about Jake, what he has to do or not do. You need to get up in the morning and do whatever it is that you can do, right? So that 100% is so liberating, and it gets rid of any blame or just waiting and wasting time. So owning it is the first step. The second step is winning it, and by winning it, I really talk about whatever it is that you do for your family or for your business. I want you to make a decision that you're going to be the best that ever can be doing this job. So if you're a marketing professional, you just want to be the top 1 in town or the top 3. That's how you kill it, essentially, right? Because otherwise, who's going to remember your name? You have to be so good at what you do to the point that when people mention a travel consultant, they mention her. If they want an SEO consultant, they mention Chad, and so on, right? So imagine if you got up every morning and said, whatever it is I'm doing, I'm going to be the best there can be, versus I'm just going to go and do it. That doesn't work. The third one is crushing it. Essentially means once we own it so well, and once we win it so well, we do the job so well, you know what starts to happen? Chad starts getting phone calls out of the blue. Customers start calling him. He no longer needs to be in the business of lead generation every day. The same thing at home. When I do my job so well, then a lot of the questions that people will ask are being answered. The service orientation that I have developed, everybody now understands that it is more of a negotiation in terms of what's going to serve everybody around me. But when in business, the best thing that happens is people start calling you. You don't have to work as hard anymore. That's really when you crush it. You start getting repeat business, you start getting referrals, and life is much easier than it used to be. So in a nutshell, unpacking your default setting is very critical to understand the things that are sabotaging your day and your life and your business. Understand exactly the things you're doing that could be pushing people away and you don't know that they are even happening. And the second step was really defining who you are and having a standard for what brand you represent. And then the last step is to really have an exciting and inspiring vision that really gets you excited every day. And that excitement gets shared with everybody else. Thank you so much for your time.